We've all been there, staring down something we know we should do, something that would improve our lives, our careers, our relationships, and yet we hesitate, we delay, we procrastinate, we tell ourselves we're just waiting for the right moment, the right inspiration, the right mood, but that moment doesn't come. Days pass, weeks, sometimes years, and we're left with regret, wondering why we couldn't just force ourselves to take action. But here's the truth. The reason we don't act isn't because we're lazy, unmotivated, or weak. It's because we've lost touch with the reason behind the action, the why. Action doesn't begin with motivation, it begins with meaning. We don't push ourselves because someone told us we should or because society says it's the right thing to do. When the action becomes part of something bigger than itself, when it connects to who we are and more importantly, who we want to become. We don't wake up early just to say we're disciplined. We do it because we're chasing a vision of ourselves that exists on the other side of discipline. We don't start a new business to make money. We do it because we believe in an idea that could change lives. We don't exercise for the sake of sweating. We do it because we see ourselves living a longer, more vibrant life. Action becomes inevitable when the why is clear. And yet this is where most people get stuck. We focus so much on the what we need to do, what the steps are, what the goal is, that we forget to ask the one question that truly matters. Why does this matter to me? We live in a world obsessed with goals and hacks and to-do lists, but those are just tactics. They're surface level. They don't move the soul. They don't spark action. If tactics were enough, we'd all be living our dream lives by now. But tactics without meaning are just noise. It's the meaning that creates the motion. And when you look at the people who consistently take action, who show up day after day, even when it's hard, they all have one thing in common. They've made a connection between their daily actions and their deeper purpose. They're not grinding for the sake of grinding. They're building something they believe in. They're pulled by vision, not pushed by guilt. Think about it. Have you ever done something difficult, something that required effort, but it felt almost effortless because it was so aligned with who you are? Maybe you volunteered for a cause you believe in. Maybe you stayed up late working on a creative project that no one asked for but you couldn't ignore. That was willpower. When we understand why something matters, resistance loses its grip. Suddenly it's not about forcing ourselves to act. It's about aligning our actions with our identity. And that shift from discipline to desire, from pressure to purpose, is what unlocks real change. Now, that doesn't mean every action will feel easy. It won't. But it will feel worth it. And that's the difference. A strong why doesn't eliminate the challenge, but it makes the challenge meaningful. And meaning gives us the fuel to endure, to persist, to rise after we fall. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you stopped and really asked yourself, why am I doing this? Not just on the surface, but at the deepest level. Why do you want to write that book? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to start that business? If your answer is because I should or because other people are doing it, you're already setting yourself up to fail. Because those reasons don't stir the heart. They don't ignite fire. They're borrowed goals. And borrowed goals rarely lead to lasting action. But if your answer is because I want to show my kids what's possible, or because I know I have something to give the world, or because I'm tired of living small when I know I was made for more, now you're onto something. Now the action has a heartbeat. Purpose doesn't come from pressure. It comes from alignment. And when your actions align with something greater than yourself, they stop feeling like chores. They become commitments. They become part of who you are. The most powerful force in human behavior isn't discipline or even desire. It's identity. We act in line with who we believe we are. So if you want to change your action, start with the action. Start with the belief behind it. Start with the story you're telling yourself about who you are and who you're becoming. You don't have to force yourself to take action when the action is part of your identity. The artist doesn't force themselves to create. The leader doesn't force themselves to lead. The athlete doesn't force themselves to train. They do it because it's who they are. And the more you act in alignment with your purpose, the more that identity becomes real. So if you're stuck, if you're waiting for the motivation to show up, don't look for another trick or tactic. Look inward. Ask better questions. Ask why it matters. Ask what's at stake. Ask who you want to be. Because when the why is strong enough, the how takes care of itself. It's not about forcing action, it's about finding meaning. And meaning is what makes the impossible possible. We often talk about discipline like it's this cold, harsh force, a kind of punishment we inflict on ourselves in the name of progress. Wake up early, do the hard things, push through the pain. We treat it like it's a boot camp for the soul. And because of that, we resist it, we fear it, we even resent it. But what if we've misunderstood discipline all along? Discipline isn't punishment. It's not restriction. It's not the absence of pleasure or the denial of freedom. In fact, it's the opposite. Real discipline is an act of love. Love for your future. Love for your potential. Love for the version of you that doesn't yet exist, but could, if only you had the courage to show up for it. We don't stick to hard routines because we enjoy the struggle. We do it because we know what's on the other side. We know there's a version of our life we haven't tasted yet, and we believe it's worth the discomfort it takes to reach it. That's not punishment. That's commitment. That's care. That's love. The problem is when we try to force ourselves into action without understanding this, it feels like self-abuse. We bark orders at ourselves like drill sergeants. We think self-discipline means self-hate, but discipline rooted in shame is unsustainable. It will break you. The only discipline that lasts is the kind that's rooted in kindness, the kind that says, I believe in who you can become, and I'm not going to let you give up on that. Imagine someone you love deeply, a child, a partner, a friend. If they were drifting away from their potential, wouldn't you fight for them? Wouldn't you gently but firmly guide them back toward what they're capable of? That's what real discipline looks like. Not yelling, not punishing, guiding, protecting what matters. When we adopt that mindset for ourselves, everything changes. We stop seeing discipline as a burden and we start seeing it as a gift. It's not something we have to do, it's something we get to do because we care enough to not let ourselves off the hook. There's a lie that floats around in motivational circles that if you just get fired up enough, everything will fall into place. That you need motivation to take action. But motivation is fleeting. It's an emotion, and emotions are inconsistent. Discipline is what shows up when motivation doesn't. It's the friend that stands by you when the excitement wears off. It's the voice that says, I know you're tired, but we're not done yet. And here's the secret. The more often you act with discipline, the less you need to rely on motivation. Because action creates momentum, and momentum creates results. When you see the fruits of your discipline, when the fog clears and progress becomes visible, you don't need to be pushed anymore. You start to pull yourself forward. You realize, I am the kind of person who follows through. That belief changes everything. But let's be honest, discipline is hard. It's hard to wake up early when your bed is warm. It's hard to say no to comfort when you're tired. It's hard to stay consistent when no one's watching. And that's why your why has to be louder than your excuses. Because on the days when nothing else is enough, when your goals feel far away and the finish line is out of sight, it's love that will carry you. Love for the person you're becoming. Love for the mission. This isn't about hustle culture. It's not about grinding until you burn out. It's about devotion. Devotion to something meaningful, something worth waking up for, worth sweating for, worth showing up again and again, even when no one claps for you, even when no one else gets it. The world doesn't need more people trying to force themselves into action. It needs people who are willing to take ownership of their lives, who see discipline not as a prison, but as a path. People who understand that freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the result of honoring them. You earn the freedom to create, to lead, to thrive by being disciplined enough to do the work. Think about athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, anyone performing at a high level. What sets them apart isn't just talent, it's consistency. And consistency is discipline in motion. It's doing the reps even when the mood isn't there. It's writing the pages even when the words come slowly. It's sticking to your values even when shortcuts appear. That's where greatness lives, in the tiny repeated acts of love we perform for our future selves. When we treat ourselves with that kind of respect, we stop needing to be pushed. We're pulled by something bigger. We stop negotiating with our lesser selves. We stop entertaining excuses, because deep down we know if we want the life that few people have, we must be willing to do what few people are willing to do. So the next time you struggle to take action, don't ask yourself, how do I force this? Ask yourself, what am I protecting by showing up? Because you're not just checking off a task, you're building a life. You're honoring a calling. You're choosing your future over your feelings. Discipline is not the enemy of joy. It's the foundation of it. And when it comes from a place of love, it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like power. It feels like peace. That's when action stops being a fight and starts becoming your natural response. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because it aligns, because it honors the story you're writing with your life. A story worth telling, a story worth living. We've been taught to believe that action is logical, that if we just think hard enough, if we make the right list, if we calculate the pros and cons, we'll be able to push ourselves to move. But that's not how human beings work. We're not logic-driven machines. We are emotional creatures. It's not information that moves us, it's emotion. It's not clarity that drives us, it's connection. We don't act because we've figured something out in our minds. We act because we've felt something in our hearts. Every powerful movement in history, every bold personal decision, every moment of courage, none of it came from logic alone. It came from a place of emotion, a place where something inside of us said, enough is enough. A place where staying the same felt more painful than making the change. That's the tipping point. That's where transformation begins. Not when we understand something intellectually, but when we feel it deeply. When the idea stops being an idea and becomes a conviction. That's when action becomes natural. That's when you stop needing to be convinced, because something inside you already decided. The problem is we've been trained to numb that part of ourselves. We've been told to stay rational, to be objective, to avoid getting too emotional. But in doing that, we've silenced the most powerful force we have, the part of us that actually moves us forward, the part of us that cares. You can read all the books, you can gather all the tips, you can watch 100 motivational videos, but if you don't feel something, you won't act. You'll stay stuck. Because action isn't a product of thought, it's a product of emotion. When you feel fear deeply enough, you'll run. When you feel hope deeply enough, you'll leap. When you feel anger, love, hunger, pride, those things move you. They create momentum. We spend so much time trying to manage our time, our schedules, our habits, but we don't manage our emotions. We don't listen to them. We either ignore them or try to suppress them. And yet, those same emotions are the fuel we need. The very thing we keep pushing down is what will actually push us forward. Think about a time you actually took a bold step. Maybe you walked away from a toxic situation. Maybe you started something you'd been putting off for years. What finally made you do it? Was it logic, or was it the moment something inside of you snapped when you felt the weight of staying the same and it broke something open? That's not coincidence, that's biology. We are wired to act when we feel, and if we want to force ourselves to take action, we have to stop thinking so much and start feeling more. We have to connect emotionally to what we want, and even more importantly, to what we don't want. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I don't act? What is the cost of staying in this exact place for another year, another 5? Who will I become if I let this moment pass? Let the fear in, not to paralyze you, but to stir you. Let it wake you up. Let it show you that this isn't just about one task or one goal. This is about your life. This is about your integrity. This is about your future. Then flip the lens. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to finally take the leap, to become the version of you that's been waiting beneath the surface? Imagine how that would feel. Not what it would look like, how it would feel. Let that picture get vivid. Let it move you. Let it make you ache for it. Because when the desire becomes emotional, it becomes real. And when it becomes real, you'll move. This is not about faking it. It's not about tricking yourself into action. It's about being honest with yourself. Honest about what matters. Honest about what you truly want. Because when you tell yourself the truth, the emotion follows, and the emotion brings energy, and energy fuels motion. People don't burn out because they're working hard. They burn out because they're working without feeling, without meaning, without connection. They've turned their lives into checklists and lost touch with the reason behind the effort. They're running on logic when they were designed to run on heart. If you want to take consistent action, you have to make it personal. You have to stop seeing the task as a task and start seeing it as a symbol. That workout isn't just about health, it's about proving to yourself that you can finish something. That cold call isn't just about sales, it's about stepping into courage. That writing session isn't just about the book, it's about honoring your voice. When you attach emotion to the task, it becomes sacred. It becomes powerful, it becomes alive, and that's what gets you moving. Not pressure, not guilt, but meaning. And meaning is emotional. The people who act consistently are not robots. They're not better than you. They've just found a way to connect what they're doing with how they feel. They found a way to let their heart lead, not just their head. And when you do that, action becomes a reflection of your values. It becomes an extension of your purpose. You stop asking, how do I make myself do this? And start asking, how can I feel this more deeply? Because when the feeling is deep, the follow-through is automatic. You don't have to force it. You don't have to hype yourself up. You just move, you act, you keep going, not because it's easy, but because it matters. That's how you change. That's how you become someone who takes action, not once, but always. Not just when it's convenient, but when it's essential. When you feel the truth in your bones, and you can no longer stay where you are, so don't look for another tool. Don't chase another hack. Go inward. Get honest. Feel something. Let the emotion in, and let it lead the way. Because logic may help you think, but emotion will make you move, and movement is where transformation lives. We like to believe that willpower is enough, that if we just try hard enough, push ourselves hard enough, we'll eventually get things done. That we can simply will ourselves into better habits, more discipline, more consistency. But willpower is like a battery. It drains, it has a limit, and when it runs out, we're left vulnerable, tired, frustrated, unmotivated. The truth is, no matter how strong your willpower is, if your environment is working against you, it will win. We are not separate from the environments we live in. We are shaped by them, influenced by them, encouraged or discouraged by them. Our spaces, our routines, the people we surround ourselves with, they all play a role in whether we act or stall, whether we rise or retreat. If you want to take consistent action, you cannot rely on internal force alone. You must design a world around you where action becomes the path of least resistance. We often make the mistake of trying to change ourselves while everything around us stays the same. We say we want to be more focused, but we leave our phones within arm's reach. We say we want to exercise, but our schedule is too cluttered to allow space for it. We say we want to write that book, but our environment is filled with distractions, noise, and interruptions. That's not a failure of will. That's a failure of design. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your systems. And your environment is one of the most powerful systems you have. If you want to create change, start there. Build a space that reflects the identity you're stepping into. Remove the friction between you and the actions you want to take. Make the good choice the easy choice. Make the right path the obvious one. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. If you want to be the kind of person who wakes up early and starts the day with clarity, then design a nighttime routine that makes that morning easier. Put your phone across the room, lay out your clothes, prepare your coffee. If you want to read more, leave the book on your pillow, not hidden on a shelf. If you want to eat better, don't just promise yourself you'll resist the junk food, remove it from the house. These small changes may seem insignificant, but they create a ripple effect. Because once your environment supports your actions, you no longer have to fight yourself. You no longer have to spend all your energy resisting temptation or negotiating with your impulses. Your world starts to do the heavy lifting for you. You make fewer decisions and take more action, not because you suddenly became stronger, but because you became smarter. We forget how deeply we're influenced by what we see, what we hear, what we feel. A cluttered room leads to a cluttered mind. A noisy space leads to noisy thoughts. The wrong people lead to the wrong mindset. And none of this is personal. It's just human nature. We adapt to whatever we're exposed to most often. So if you want to act differently, start by surrounding yourself with different cues. Cues that pull you forward, not hold you back. Sometimes the environment isn't physical, it's social. Who you spend time with matters. If you're surrounded by people who complain, you'll start to see the world through the same lens. If your friends normalize quitting or settling or staying comfortable, that energy seeps into you. But if you're around people who challenge themselves, who take bold action, who move with purpose, that becomes contagious too. Energy is transferable, so is attitude, so is belief. If you want to take more action, start putting yourself in rooms where action is the norm, not the exception, where growth is expected, where people speak the language of possibility. You don't need to become someone else, you just need to stop being pulled away from who you truly are. Your environment can either anchor you or elevate you. It can either weigh you down or lift you up. It can either make action feel impossible or inevitable. And the beautiful part is you get to choose. Maybe not overnight, maybe not everything at once, but little by little, piece by piece, you can shift the space around you to match the life you're trying to build. Start with one corner of your life, one room, one routine. Look at it and ask, does this support the person I want to become? Does this space, this habit, this input pull me toward my potential or away from it? If the answer is no, don't judge yourself, just start adjusting. Remove the clutter, reduce the noise, create space. Because the more intentional you are with your environment, the less effort you need to force yourself into action. You stop swimming upstream, you stop fighting with your surroundings, and suddenly things start to click. You find yourself doing the right things without as much struggle. You find yourself thinking clearer, choosing better, acting faster. That's not an accident, that's design, and design always beats willpower in the long run. Taking action isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming aligned. It's about recognizing that the world you create around you will become the world you live within. You don't just need to build habits, you need to build habitats. Habitats that support your energy, your purpose, your evolution. So if you're tired of forcing yourself, maybe it's time to stop relying on force. Maybe it's time to turn your environment into your ally. To stop seeing action as something you must summon and start seeing it as something that can be triggered by the right cue, the right space, the right energy. You can't always control how you feel, but you can control what surrounds you. And often, that's more powerful because the fastest way to change your life isn't just to change your mind, it's to change what your mind is exposed to every day. There's this moment we all face, quiet, personal, and often uncomfortable, where we realize we've been waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the right mood, waiting until we feel ready, and we convince ourselves that this waiting is wisdom, that it's planning, that we're just being strategic, but deep down we know the truth. We're hiding, we're hesitating, we're hoping something will come along to push us, to wake us up, to give us permission. But the hard truth is no one is coming. No one is going to walk into your life and force you to become who you're meant to be. No one is going to drag you out of bed and into your purpose. That's your job. That's always been your job. We keep thinking action is something we take once we feel ready, but readiness is a myth. It's a lie we tell ourselves so we can stay where it's safe, where it's familiar, where it's comfortable. And the longer we wait to feel ready, the longer we wait to start living. We act not when we feel ready, but when we decide we're done waiting. The people who get things done, who create change, who build lives of meaning, they're not fearless. They just stopped waiting for the fear to go away. They felt it, and they moved anyway. They understood something most of us forget. Clarity doesn't come before action, it comes from action. We keep waiting for confidence, too, for that sense of certainty to land in our laps. But confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a byproduct. You earn confidence by doing the things scared. By showing up messy, by trying, failing, learning, and returning with more wisdom than you had the day before. If we want to stop procrastinating, we have to stop looking at action as the end result of some perfect emotional state. We have to stop expecting motivation to show up and carry us across the finish line. Action isn't the product of ideal conditions, it's the cause of new conditions. It's what changes things, it's what creates momentum, it's what turns vision into reality. Sometimes the most powerful action you can take is the smallest one. A single page written, a single phone call made, one step, one decision, one moment of courage that says, I'm not going to live in the land of almost anymore. You don't need to climb the mountain today. You just need to lace up your boots and start walking. We overestimate the power of dramatic effort and underestimate the power of consistent effort. We think if we're not sprinting, we're not moving. But growth doesn't come from bursts. It comes from rhythm, from flow, from choosing to show up again and again, even when it's not glamorous, even when it's not exciting, and even when no one's watching. That kind of consistency doesn't come from hype. It comes from something deeper, from knowing what you stand for, from understanding what matters to you and why. Because when the action is tied to meaning, it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like purpose. That's what we forget when we wait to act. That every day we delay, we're not just postponing productivity, we're postponing purpose. We're putting off the version of ourselves that's been calling from within, the one that doesn't want a perfect plan, the one that just wants us to move. And here's the thing, action is the antidote to anxiety. It's the remedy for doubt. When you're stuck in your head, looping thoughts, spinning wheels, it's action that breaks the cycle. Not overthinking, not researching, not making another plan. Movement, even imperfect movement. Because once you take one step, the fog clears just enough to see the next one, and the next. And slowly the path begins to form, not because it was there all along, but because you created it by walking. That's the power of action. It builds the road beneath your feet. There will always be reasons to wait. The timing won't feel perfect. The fear will whisper doubts. The excuses will be tempting. But none of that changes the truth. If something matters to you, it's worth starting before you're ready. You're not here to live on pause. You're not here to build dreams in your head and die with them untouched. You're here to engage with life, to lean into it, to create, to connect, to contribute. That doesn't happen someday. That happens now, in this moment, with what you have from where you are. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, you'll stumble. You'll start and stop. You'll doubt yourself. But action isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to feel the discomfort, willing to be a beginner, willing to trade the illusion of safety for the opportunity of growth. Most people wait their whole lives for the right conditions, for the green light, for the confidence to arrive. But the people who live fully, they understand that action is the green light. It's the key, it's the signal that says, let's go. You want to write the book, start the first paragraph. You want to launch the business, send the first email. You want to change your health, go for the walk. You want to reconnect with someone, make the call. You don't need permission, you need movement. You need to prove to yourself, not with thoughts, but with action, that you are capable of more than you've allowed yourself to believe. Because once you act, even in the smallest way, the story changes. You stop being someone who waits and you become someone who does. You stop dreaming of change and start becoming it. And that shift, that identity shift, is the beginning of everything.